Covenant Keeper, a Dvar Torah for the Haftarat of Parashat Noach. It's not me, it's you. On second thought, I'm not sure opening by blaming my audience is such a good idea, so let me explain. When I started writing about the Haftarot instead of the weekly parasha, I thought the main challenge would be writing about a topic I'm less versed in. I was wrong. The main challenge is assessing how much other learners know and then deciding how much to invest in summarizing the Haftarah versus diving deep into it. Or, as I said again, it's not me, it's you. I'll try to be concise. The Haftarah is a consolation prophecy in which, according to Abarbanel, Yeshayahu comes to comfort the congregation of Israel regarding the troubles and length of exile, with the promise of future redemption through various metaphors of a barren woman, a poor storm-tossed woman, and other imagery he'll mention, and to promise them they won't return to exile again, that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of God. In other words, it's hard now, but tomorrow will be better. The question is, by what merit? And I think that depends on whom you ask. Examining the beginning of the Haftarah points to a trend in the prophecy's subject's actions. She didn't give birth and didn't go into labor. That's all she has done until now. From here on, she needs to open several new departments in the housing ministry that need to handle housing additions and building reinforcements. Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitations. Lengthen thy cords, and strengthen thy stakes. And she needs to build self-esteem. Fear not, for thou shalt not be ashamed, neither be thou confounded, for thou shalt not be put to shame. What else? Nothing. Hashem will handle everything else. Meaning, she doesn't really need to do anything for anyone else aside for herself. Although the prophet doesn't mention it explicitly, at this stage a question arises. If, as the prophet claims, we haven't done anything positive and there's no demand to do anything in the future, by what merit do we deserve everything that happens? The answer given by Yeshayahu is by merit of the covenant. Which covenant? By merit of the single explicitly mentioned covenant in the Haftarah, Noach's covenant. Here, different communities and the weekly Haftarah reading. Some communities, however, continue reading the prophecy of the poor storm-tossed woman, Aniyah Soara, where the expectations are somewhat different. In the case of the Aniyah Soara, Hashem functions as the housing minister, and the poor woman has children who are Hashem's disciples. She will be established with righteousness and far from oppression. No one will harm her, because when they try to rise against her in judgment, she will condemn them and prove she is worthy of her special relationship with Hashem. The poor one neutralizes the question asked about the barren one. By what merit will you be established? Righteousness. Your deeds will bring you closer. On the other hand, though I don't know if it's right to ask what makes this prophecy different from other prophecies, since both type of prophecies are common in Yeshayahu, I do think we can ask about the seemingly forced connection that some communities make between the two Haftarot. I want to emphasize that the claim that these are two different units is subject to interpretive as well as halachic dispute. Rabbi Moshe Lichtenstein from Yeshivat Har Etzion argues that these are clearly two separate prophecies, and it's more natural to connect Roni Akara to the parasha than Aniyah Soara. Conversely, Abarbanel and after him Amos Chacham and Dat Mikra define the entire Haftarah as one prophecy with 4 different sections. Before I try to reach any kind of point, which I'm not really sure I will, I want to throw in another comment. The connections between the Haftarah and the parasha ultimately comes down to 2 verses that mention the water of Noach. The problem is that Noach's waters represent a universal covenant, while both the barren and poor woman represent the people of Israel. Why should Noach's covenant be a reason for her salvation more than anyone else's? I mean, why should your seed inherit the nations because of a promise given to all of humanity? Therefore, I want to suggest a different answer to an earlier question, which might shed some light on the entire Haftarah. I'm not sure that Noach's water constitute a reason for the salvation of the barren and poor congregation of Israel. Perhaps instead, It serves as proof that Hashem keeps covenants. Why is this an important point? I'm glad you asked. At the beginning of the Haftarat, the congregation of Israel is compared to a barren woman, meaning a woman who is expected to be able to give birth, meaning married, but is currently desolate. It's natural for such a woman to feel betrayed and, at first, avoid returning to her first husband. After all, as far as she's concerned, the marriage covenant, which includes promises like I will honor, sustain, support, and provide, has been broken. Why should she think that this covenant will be any different? This is where Noach's covenant enters the picture. If you think your husband doesn't keep covenants, all you need to do is look at Noach's covenant, an ancient covenant that held for a very long time. And along with it, several other covenants will be mentioned or at least alluded to. Brit Chasdei David HaNe'emanim, Abraham's covenant to teach his children righteousness and justice, the Kohanic covenant, those who are clothed in precious stones, the covenant of renovated Zion. The Haftarah deals with covenants in general, not with one type of covenant or another. Noach's covenant, our parasha, is the prototype and proof that they can and should be held. All that's left for us is to pray and see what can be done to uphold our end of the covenant. In loving memory of my beloved and heroic student, Amichai Shimon ben Yishai and Bat Yerubin Hashem Yikom Damo, Tovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.